Are you having trouble sleeping? Maybe you're snoring. Or maybe you just don't feel rested in the morning and you feel like your body still needs a little bit more. Well, if that's the case, then you should take a listen to our last episode with Carice Laguerre, where she talked to us about the reasons why we may not be sleeping as well, and especially how that may be affecting the Black community. But before you do that, let's take a listen to this episode with Takirra Winfield Dixon.
Welcome to Diversity Dish, where we're dishing on everything diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice related. My name is Sedruola Maruska, and we're bridging the gap between what needs to be said and what needs to be heard. Those individual experiences that are often ignored or simply dismissed. Sometimes I'm dining alone, sometimes I'm dining with friends, and sometimes I'm dining a la carte. No matter how I'm dining, it promises to be delicious. Let's dig in.
Takirra Winfield Dixon served as a political appointee in President Barack Obama's administration. She's currently the strategic advisor to President Obama's U.S. Secretary of Education, John B. King Jr. Takirra also served for 6 years as a senior member of Martin O'Malley's gubernatorial administration. She's a proud Howard alum, a graduate of the University of Maryland, and has experience as a communications consultant. Takirra has dedicated her career to elevating and uplifting stories and the experiences of Black women. Oh my goodness, Takirra, I cannot tell you how excited I am to have you on Diversity Dish.
I'm flattered.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for coming on. I will tell you that I didn't even know who you were, I don't think, until like the day I sent you a message and said, will you please be on my...
And I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. I'm like, who is it? This is fantastic. And then I went and looked you up and saw all the conversations. And I was like, this is my space.
I'm so glad. And I'll tell you what happened. I read your article. What is it? Salon. I read your article on Salon that says, I'm a Black woman, not a woman of color. Here's why I make that distinction. Mm-hmm. I read the article because as soon as I read the headline, I was like, yes, yes, this is what I've been saying or thinking of. Oh my God. I read the article. I created a graphic on Instagram with that. It blew up. And I was like, I just have to find her. And then and honestly, it wasn't that easy to find you. It wasn't easy at all. But I was so determined. I am finding this woman and I'm going to get her on this podcast. So honestly, I'm just so excited. So let's start with that. Let's start with, actually, no, because I want people to get to know you just a little bit better. So let's not get too excited about it. Tell us about you. Tell us, Takirra, what are you passionate about right now?
Sure. I mean, I'm most passionate about Black women and turning the performances into reality and us claiming our own space and, building our own tables, right? Like, the thing that wakes me up every day right now is, I recently launched my own communications firm, which, coming out of the Obama administration, a lot of folks, right, were privileged enough to be able to spin off firms and sort of do that kind of thing, right? And like,
yeah.
I don't have a lot of capital just sitting around, right, to be able to go and, say, all right, I'm going to take, 2 months off and then go launch a thing, right? And so I kind of kept it in the back of my head for a while and just had this tribe of incredible Black women who pushed me and said, when is going to be the time?
Yes.
Right? There's always going to be a thing. There's always going to be an excuse. You have got to get out there and just do it. and the rest will come. And so, I intentionally, people ask me like, well, what are you? Are you the CEO? Are you the president? I'm like, I'm the founder, right? Because
Right.
particularly now, it's so important for Black women to own our own tables, to build our own tables, to be able to be part of this movement in a real way.
Mm-hmm.
After being owned in this country for over 400 years,
Yes.
we save consistently, that never saves us, right? Like, folks are too comfortable thanking us instead of
Mm.
respecting us.
Mm.
And I'm tired of it. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to go. And this just became a journey. And I'm on the journey and I'm learning and meeting incredible women like yourself and just incredible people that I'm excited to sort of help them lean into their authentic voices and
Mm-hmm.
really be able to say it's okay to give yourself permission to be who you are in any space, right? And when you do
Yes.
that, it gives others permission to show up as they are, right? So the way I'm showing up today is how I show up at work. It's,
I
how I show
love
up
it.
every day, and like, I'm just me. And I'm at the point where I give myself permission to leave spaces where I cannot be myself.
Yes. Ooh, girl, you are speaking all kinds of my language. Yes. Because it's so true. I mean, I think that I'm older than you. And it took me a while to get to that realization. It took me a while because, my generation, I felt it was more about conforming. Like, okay, so the civil rights happened. Let's now make ourselves comfortable within these confines and do the things that we're supposed to do so that people will accept us. And we're not going to be angry Black women. We're not
Mm,
going to be we're not going to be, I mean, whatever the words are, we're not going to wrap up our hair. We're not going to wear our hair natural. We're going to wear our hair straight and we're going to do these things. And then at some point, I was telling somebody before I was 26 years old and I was growing my hair out. And I'm sure a lot of us have this story, right? I had a relaxer. I was growing my hair out, but I would wear my hair in a ponytail every single day because I didn't like getting up to curl my hair in the morning. I like to sleep.
mm-hmm.
And I woke up one day and I said, why am I doing this?
Yep. Yep.
So I
I-
went to the hairdresser. I said, cut it off down to the new growth. She about had a conniption. And I was like, nope, do it. Because it wasn't something that was done back then. It was, it was like, are you kidding? She kept asking me, are you serious? I was like, he's like, have you ever done this before? Do you know the shape of your head? I said, there are hats and there are wigs.
I mean, look, it's about reaching back too, right? My mom, was all throughout the civil rights era and, wore her Black Panther shirts and, had her fro out. And she also, right, was a social worker for a minute, right? And like, that was her way of thinking, I can improve the system, right?
Yeah.
Was like, let me be part of the system so that I can make incremental change and
Mm-hmm.
so that I can try to sort of advance the Black community, and realizing, right, that there was a lot of emotional toll, right, mental health, all kinds of things around that.
Yes.
And like, my mother pushed me, like, talking about hair, my mother refused to let me get a perm. I have never had a perm in my hair my
Woo,
entire
that's
life.
awesome.
My mother, right, like, my mother laid the way, right, and like, and she pushed me, and she really laid the foundation for me to be the unapologetic Black woman that I am today, right? And like,
Yes.
she was part of that. And so I think with all the generations, right, we have a responsibility to reach back and to reach forward
Forward.
and to be able to pull in folks, right? So I have a client who, is in her 50s and is finding her voice and is excited about it, right? And we're pushing each
That's
other
me.
together, right? We're going together. I'm like, I'm here on this journey with you. We are going together, girl. And
Yes.
we're gonna get there. And it's never too late to lean into your voice or find the voice. And the way I approach communications is very much about channeling, right? Like, I always say, I'm here to channel. It's already there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not here to mold you into something else or to give you a bunch of talking points that don't sound like you or
Right.
that are about white supremacy and privilege. And, I'm not about that. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, who are you? We're going to go on this journey together. We're going to bring you out. It's going to be scary, but it's going to be fine.
Right.
And we're going to move, right,
Yeah.
folks? And every time you tell your story, someone will be moved. Every time, you show up as yourself, someone will believe in themselves and believe that they have permission to be able to move. And that's
Yes.
movement building, right? Like, we got to build this movement
Yeah.
and we got to lead it. It's time. Like, it's time, I'm
It's
done with white
past time, right?
it's,
It's
I'm done,
past time.
right? Like, and even like the decision for me to sort of start to do my own thing, I have worked for lots and lots of organizations, right? I was in the Obama administration. And, no matter how much you love folks, the foundation of a lot of these organizations is still white supremacy and privilege. And so,
Mm-hmm.
who are the funders? Who are the donors? Who are the folks, right?
Yeah.
That we are in many ways conforming to. And
Yep.
so I'm like, okay, I got it. I got it now. Like, I feel free. And this is what it's about. And
Mm-hmm.
freedom, right? And like, we've got to get comfortable in those spaces to say, I'm going to take a leap and I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to do it. And we got to push each other, right? Like, I wouldn't have done it if I didn't have my like tribe,
Right.
women
Going.
mentors being like, girl, go ahead and do this. And you can build a plane and fly it and do all things. And
Yes.
I just think we've got to be that for each other. And that's how we show up for each other.
Absolutely. I think so too. I think, and when you're talking about, so I'm 52. So when you're talking about reaching back, my mom has only in the last, I would say maybe 5 or so years, maybe a little longer than that, decided that she wasn't going to be perming her hair anymore. So she's wearing her hair natural and she's wearing an afro, and she had to go through a whole process, which it is a process, right?
Yes.
But you reaching back and you do that. And then my daughter, who, is biracial, when she came into this world, my thing was she gonna love them curls.
Mm-hmm.
That-
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that's all. And does she? Man, does she? She just like, and she will point it out in TV shows and different things. She looks and she finds people that look like her and have hair like her, and she identifies. And I'm like, man, that is something that I didn't even really have back then,
Mm-hmm.
right? So here we are. We're just, like you said, everybody's getting together and we're moving together, forward together, which is an amazing, amazing thing to watch, because and be part of, right?
Right.
Not just be on the sidelines, but to be part of, because you've seen the iterations and the way that it's happened. And now you see, like, we're like, no, taking no prisoners. Taking no prisoners.
It's,
Hello.
I mean, we are over 400 years past due, right? Like, cash the check. And the check, people talk about reparations, right? Like, I'm like, no, let's fix this systemic injustice.
Let's fix this
Let's fix that.
system.
Like,
Yes.
look, Representative Ayanna Pressley, policy is our love language, right? Like, let's do that. Let's move those kinds of conversations into
Yes.
reality and change. And, lots of conversation around systemic racism. We had the quote reckoning, right, last year, which is
Yep.
still going. And then the responses are Apple creating a watch that's like a Pan-African flag. And like,
we were gonna get to that.
but I'm here for it. Like, I'm not waiting for Apple to save me. Like, and like those kinds of conversations. And when we say systemic, we literally mean the systems are designed to kill us before we have a chance to succeed.
Yes.
It is all of the pieces. It is why
Yes.
there's the power plant next to the Black neighborhoods, why the corner store doesn't have any fresh local food.
Yes.
Like, it's the healthcare system.
It's the way the pipeline works.
That's
The
it.
pipeline, it's like, it's like a train. It stops at this area and a bunch of people get out. And the last station where nobody really wants, that's where the last of the dregs end up, right?
Right.
And that tends to be those places that they corralled Black people and marginalized people to, right?
Yeah.
Those are the places where they said, you can live here. And I was just talking about that. I was like, you can live here, and the water that comes from, the reservoir or that comes from the city, That's the last stop.
That's right.
Or the pipes might not be as great for that part because we putting all the money over here into this part.
That's right.
It's all related. And I
It's
tell
all
people
related.
all the time, I'm like,
Related.
it's the system, the way things have been set up that needs to be shaken up.
Yep.
We have to have more bravery
Absolutely.
present.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the system, right? And it's white violence. To
Yes.
We saw the insurrectionists at the Capitol, right? And I'm like, well, we saw this before in 1921 in Tulsa. Like, this is the same
This
wiped
is what
out,
happens.
right? This is what happens. Like, we are always sort of like cleaning up the white violence. Literally the photos, right, of
Yes.
black and brown folks cleaning up
Cleaning
after
up.
crazy insurrectionists. Like, that is, and look, we have Black Wall Street, right? Like, nobody can stop us. And when
Yep.
you look today at, Tulsa, and you look at the legacy of school segregation, of policing, of the wealth gap and income, like, destroyed, right?
Yes.
Wiped out, like, no longer even part of the conversation.
Yes.
And we need to be able to rebuild that,
Yes.
to close the wealth gap. And we got to own our own stuff. It's Black prosperity, right? And we got to stop apologizing to white folks and having white folks be able to dictate what we do, how we do it, all that kind of stuff. We got to get to a place where we are really Black owned for real.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I saw you wrote about, because I read all of your articles. I read them all because I was like, "Ooh, yeah, look at that! Wow, that title, yeah, that." So so we're gonna let's kind of go through these, right? So
Yeah.
you mentioned the Apple Watch,
Yep.
which is which is very significant in terms of. I did have a question in one of my groups on Facebook as well, and someone was like, "Does it really matter to you if they take Aunt Jemima off the box? Wouldn't it be better if they actually put their money into some government things and change that?" I said, yes, both are important.
Mm-hmm.
I said, absolutely, we need money to go into changing the whole cultures of huge companies and into lobbying the government. But I said, the imagery that we see every single day informs us as well. And so that's okay. So when you sent me your article and I read it, I was like, yep,
Yep.
that's
Yep.
send me one, but
right. But it's the level of, I like to say, like, the being able to live in the white cloud, right? Like, for white privilege and for white folks, you can pretend that everything is kumbaya, and that we're going to be equal now because Joe Biden is president and we have the first woman of color vice president, and and it's okay for you to then make all these kind of casual comments to me about the Apple Watch, right? When I'm like, well, that's easier for you to do than actually think about risking some of your privilege to actually help Black folks right now. And that is the frustration, right? And it is time for us to call out that as well, even in our social circles, professional circles, right? The folks that we like to give a pass because, man, they did vote for Joe Biden, and we want to give them a pass. And, sometimes those are the worst folks, right? And like,
right. We don't want to alienate anybody. We're thinking we gotta hoard our quote unquote allies, right? We gotta hoard them, so we don't want to lose them. So we gotta now conform to what they might want.
That's right. Listen, and I'm past the ally conversation. I need disruption. So like, when we get to disruption, we can have a conversation. Your allyship allows you to say, I voted for Joe Biden, but girl, what's going on with your hair? Right? Or what's that shirt say? Or, oh, you said your mom is like getting the vaccine. Huh, that's interesting. She's on the wait list. I drove to Baltimore City to hop the line to get the vaccine, and I live in X amount wealthy county in Maryland, right? Like, so like, that to me, like, those conversations, right? Like, it's real, and we just gotta demand better of even the folks who are in our circles,
right?
And we gotta get to a better place. Or you can understand like why your joke's not funny, right? Because I'm too busy just being Black, right? Like, I'm just being Black. Like, Meghan Markle said, like, because I exist, right? Like, because we exist in the
Yep.
world, there's so many different layers to that. And it's a very specific type of oppression, a specific type of intersectional oppression that hits Black women, right? Which
Yes.
is to the point of the, like, I'm a Black woman, not a woman of color. Like, all of our experiences are not the same, right?
Yes.
I'm here in solidarity. I get it. We have different experiences, right? But Black women have a very unique, very specific place in oppression,
Yes.
right? That, like, needs to be called out, needs to be recognized. As long as, folks are comfortable thanking us, why don't we call out the real specific oppression that affects Black women and
Yes.
Black girls? And it starts when we're young.
Yes.
Black girls, right, are 4 times more likely to be arrested in school than their white peers, 5 times more likely to be suspended in school than their white peers. Like, we talk about school discipline, like, it is a Black girl issue.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we love to do girls of color. Yes, it affects Native communities, affects Latino communities, right? But, like, it is a real specific situation
Yeah.
with girls. When we keep seeing the news and folks are getting pepper sprayed and put in the back of cop cars and all
Uh-huh.
those things, right? Like, that is specific, right?
Yes. Yes.
Got a
Like
name.
who would ever go to a school and handcuff a white girl, 6-year-old white girl?
Yep.
Who would ever do that?
Yep. We are just seen in such a different way from the time we are born.
Yep.
And, it is time to reclaim that power and to
Yeah.
say, we are going to own that we deal with a very specific oppression that white folks try to put in our DNA every day.
Yes.
Right, with microaggressions, right, which are real aggressions, which I talked about, like, being on a Zoom meeting with colleagues, in that article, and,
Yes.
literally picking me apart as if I
Weren't there.
person, right?
Like you're invisible, right? Until what? But until, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally felt like I was back in the auction, like, picking me apart, like, okay, who's gonna sell me, right? And so,
Who's
right,
buying?
who's buying, right? Like, who's writing a check? Because at this point, even your sort of what you think are like compliments, or you're asking me about my hair, or what do my earrings say, or what my shirt says, or, like, it's all little sort of daggers, right? Which is what I said.
Yes.
That builds
That's
up,
what I say. Yeah.
every
Death
little
by
thing.
1,000 cuts.
That's what it is. And it stings. And, and we deal with it. And what we do is, we're like, we fall into those superwoman archetypes, right? Where we're like, okay, we're going to keep it moving. We're just going to put it here and it's going to sit somewhere, and, and we bury it. And I'm done burying it, right? Like, I'm going to tell you, like, sorry, that was offensive. And if you don't like it, then cool, I'm fine for you to leave my social circle or whatever it is. Right? Like, I'm good on that. I have enough friends. I got enough, folks. I'm good now, right? And we just got to do that together. And so many, when I posted the article, so many folks were like, I just experienced this the other day, right? Or something else just happened to me. Like, what is your thoughts? What is your advice? And I'm like, we just got to stand in who we are. Right?
Yeah,
and
you have to just own it and just be like, okay.
We gotta own it. We gotta own it. There's no way to not, we have to now. Like, and
it's like your article that you wrote about the unapologetic Black women are taking back our power. I love that because Naomi, she's amazing. She and Serena, they could just take over everything in
right
in tennis, and I'll be good with it.
Right. We can just watch the two of them. That's all I need. I'm good. And Coco, I'm good.
Okay. I'm like, but when she did that, like when you wrote about her in the article, when she did the 7 masks with 7 people's names, and then they asked her, well, what are you trying to say? She's like, well, what did you get from it? I was like, man, I wish I was that quick sometimes. I'm learning.
Look, and we all want to be Naomi laying on that floor free, right? Like, that's the end goal, right? It's
yes.
Like, when you were unapologetic, when you show up, she knew she was taking a risk too. So, she knew by wearing those masks, right? With everybody, like, she knew, man, this is risk. And, she was.
what you got to do.
Yep, she was willing to walk into whatever consequences, and what she did was she moves people, right? She moves people. She had the support of the families, and she just broke down those barriers, and
Hmm.
she did it in a way that was super unapologetic. And and that was where I was like, all right, this is where I'm getting the name for my firm. Like, I had written that piece, and it had been like a thing I sat on for a while,
Yeah.
and I was like, I'm gonna just let it go, right? And like, and let it happen. And
Yes.
it was like, this is the thing. Like, this is who I am. This is who I want other Black women to be. And we are not all the same. And so your unapologeticness is gonna look different than mine.
Yes.
And that's fine, right? Like, we don't have to
Right.
be the,
Because we're human, and this is what we have to constantly show and tell the world over and over and over. I am not her, she is not me, because you are not her and she is not you. Therefore, if you are an individual human, so am I.
that's
And we have to keep reminding people that we are human. We get mad, right? The
that's
same
right.
things that will make you mad make me mad. And there are more things that are coming at me to make me mad. So, how dare you put this trope on me like, oh, mad Black woman? You have to you have to be calm in the way that you say things so that people will listen to you. Well,
Hmm.
they don't listen when you kneel quietly. When
Right.
are they going to ever listen? Like,
It's right.
how much quieter can you get
That's
for
right.
what you have to say?
It's because we exist. It's because
Yes.
we exist, right? So even
And
anything that is not conforming to white supremacy, white culture, white dominance, capitalism, anything like that we do, right? It's like we say, okay, all right, we're gonna march over here, and they're like, hold on, we're gonna come over here, or we're gonna start our own march, but y'all not gonna be allowed, or we're gonna show up at y'all marches and throw bricks in your window. Like, it's like we
yes,
can't have our own stuff, and we
right,
can't build. And so I'm like, I just now need you. I don't need your table anymore. I need you to respect the thing I'm building, right?
right,
And so give up a little bit of your privilege, your sacrifice, make a little room for me, but I got it, right? Like, I just think we have to do more of that. And when we do, we are powerful. Just think about like Black Twitter. You know what I'm saying? We had like powers trending for a minute with the, Negro solstice. Like, we do it, our power. Like, we have to recognize our power in so
right,
many ways and redirect it, to ourselves. Like, that's where the
right.
movement's gotta be now.
Here's the thing. I think, as I'm thinking about that power, is that it is recognized by everyone, which is why we are so targeted in, when you talk about Tulsa, when you talk about Black Wall Street, when you talk about, these different towns that were prospering on their own terms with their own money, doing their own thing. And then all of a sudden, from the outside, they were like, we can't have this happen because that they're going to get too powerful,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Or people who sit around and go, I'm not going to vote because my vote doesn't count. And yet they are doing everything in their power to actually really keep you from voting. If
Absolutely.
it didn't matter, that's like if there's a paper in the street, it doesn't matter. If it didn't matter, they wouldn't care. They would let everybody vote. They would be like, let's open up more voting places. It doesn't matter because we're just gonna do what we want to do.
That's
It
right.
matters.
That's
And
right.
so it's like they see and they understand our power. And I think even more than we do, because they spent so much time telling us that we're not powerful,
That's
that
right.
some of us have internalized that.
That's a
I
hundred percent.
get it, but we need to deconstruct that.
Yeah. You can,
Realize
you can
you're
unlearn.
getting held down because you're so powerful,
Right.
right?
That's right. That's right. I mean, and it's true, right? It's why, folks started getting nervous last year when we started going out and protesting, and we came out in numbers, and, and yeah, there were, folks from all walks of life joining us, right? But like, I just want to know what's changed since we have been marching and protesting, and right, like we knew what we were protesting about. Like, I don't know if the white folks knew what they were protesting about when they
They
were
weren't
joining us,
protesting. It was a revolution.
right? And it was, look, here's my photo for the gram, or, you know, here's my, you know, here I am standing next to my Black friend. They've invited me to this protest, right? And I'm like, yeah, this is also our space too, though, right? Like the legacy around protesting and all of those pieces, when you look at the students who stood up throughout history from civil rights all the way through, right? Like, this is our space. And so if you come here, you need to respect our space,
You need to
right?
figure.
And then I need you to figure out specifically what you are going to do to help Black folks. Like, specifically, right? It's not posting on Instagram. It's not putting your little Black solidarity square up in your profile photo, right? Like, what is the thing you're going to commit to do, right?
Yes.
And think about that hard and take that action, right? Because there's always this thing about folks in power, and I'm like, yeah, but y'all are the ones in power. You know, the onus is on us to, like,
It's
you
like
gotta
the
have
media.
it.
It's like when anchors talk about the media. You are the media.
Yeah,
Oh, the
literally.
media is doing this. You are the
Right.
media.
I'm guaranteed somebody you know is in some position of power somewhere, or is wealth, right? Accumulating wealth, all kinds of things, right? And so what are you doing? What are the conversations you're having with those folks that you know, right? And it needs to at some point move past a conversation and move toward some sort of action that is
Yes.
meaningful, right? That is really about policy change, structural change, systemic change,
Yes.
right? For Black folks and for Black women. And it's time
Yes.
that we stand, like, in that, and that we show folks that, you know, we are powerful. Y'all saw it in the last presidential election, right? Like,
Right.
you know, at this point, you know, when are we going to get tired of saving the country that never saves us?
Saves us.
Right, but we're expected to put on the cape, right? We're expected to be a million Stacey Abrams. We're expected to be, you know, all the folks who are going to come and save the day. And we just are always forgotten, and we are always oppressed. And no one ever thinks about that. And no single administration is going to save us from that, right?
No single administration is going to save us from that. It's going to take, because the power in this country is not in necessarily in the government, it's in those corporations, right? So those corporations who are doling out policies so that they can make more money, why don't they take some of that money and dole out some policies to change the way that they do business, so that they're not looking so performative and they are actually in affecting change. I was just talking to someone yesterday about how, oh, so this, we were talking about a company, we didn't name any companies, and we are like, oh, this company was rated one of the best places to work, one of the most diverse places to work. And yet, this person said they went into this company and it just didn't seem like, people were, it didn't seem like the mecca, quote unquote, that people thought it would think it would be. I said, well, that's because we're talking about numbers. We're not talking about a change in culture. We're not talking about a change in policies. We're talking about numbers, straight up numbers. Anybody can do that.
Yep. Box checking on diversity. That's my favorite thing now about equity right now, which, like, that is a word that I struggle with. Look, I've worked in the education fields, right, in the education space. I have always disliked that word. I've always tried to get people to walk away from that word.
Really? Tell me why. Because I usually use that word because I actually prefer it to diversity, because I'm feeling like diversity is that word that's like, that forgets the Black woman, honestly, because diversity always starts with the white woman.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And then it can go down from there, and then it goes on the spectrum, and on the spectrum we all know that we're at the bottom. So then it goes,
Yeah. I mean, I've been moving into justice spaces, right?
Yes.
Like,
I use that too.
I'm like, justice, right? But I think particularly in the education space, like, the word equity has become a box checker. And so lots of folks are using the word equity, and, oh, this district cares about equity, or this organization cares about equity. And, and I'm like, that's lovely. So can we talk about justice though? Like, what does the policy look like?
Right.
just through to justice, because that is a very different conversation, and justice requires personal sacrifice from folks in power. And
Yes.
that is the difference for me, right? Like
Got it.
it's like moving that conversation. Like it's almost funny because it's like, we start talking about diversity, and then white folks start talking about diversity, and then we start talking about equity, and then they start talking about equity, right? And so we can't have, how many words y'all gonna colonize?
So we'll give you a new word.
Right? Like, okay,
And see how that works out.
like I'm tired of y'all colonizing everything we do. Like we got to move past this place of like y'all just trying to take everything we have, right, and say, do what's comfortable, right? You're doing what's comfortable, right? I will issue a statement about equity. I will issue a report about equity and tell you how many, folks of color exist in my organization.
Yes.
Like, that's annual report talk. Like, we passed that.
Right.
Like, put out your
yes.
report, you know what I'm saying? Get your money, whatever. That's how you do that on our backs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm ready for something else, right? Like, at this point, it is, what does the C-suite look like? And, and can you actually listen to us instead of focus grouping us? And that's different,
Right. And there's fear or this idea that, oh, you're going to fire people so you can hire Black people. I mean, this is, and I'm always like, okay, maybe somebody should resign.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of folk in Congress. I'm ready for them to resign. It's a lot of folks.
We're not even gonna go there. Okay. I'm like, please just go. Maybe you should resign, or maybe when you're leaving, you say, I would like this space to be taken up by a person of color, and give people something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's just that when you guys are trying to fill a seat, you make sure that there are people of color in, Black people.
Mm-hmm.
And people of color in the mix
mm-hmm.
of who you're picking from.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just, it's like you would almost think that what's going to happen is, okay, companies are going to be like, yes, we want to do equity. Okay, good. You, and you, y'all are all fired, and a whole group of, it's that mentality. It's like, do you know how things work? Like, do things really work that way? Because if they did, it'd have been done ages ago.
It's the we're getting more powerful, right? It's your point from earlier, right? We're getting more powerful. We are recognizing our power that they also recognize, and now we're a threat.
Yeah.
And so when we start demanding for seats, and we start demanding for power and change and all of those things, we are a threat. And so they have to come up with a million excuses why they can't hire us, or why we can't, well, there's not enough people in the pool, or I can't find folks, or we don't know where the Black scientists are. We, come on. Come on. Let's not do that. Let's
not do that. Right. So I want you to speak to me about I can't even say it with a straight face. Okay. Reverse racism.
Listen. How much time we got?
We got time, girl. Let's go.
Look, the reverse racism thing is so beyond ridiculous, and it is just another excuse, right, to try to center whiteness.
Yeah.
And it is another excuse to try to hold on to power, and hold on to privilege. And when we try to come and dismantle that, they have to say, no, wait a minute, that's also racism. Right? That's racism too. I'm like, no.
You don't seem to understand what racism is. Let's go back.
Yeah, and you don't experience the exact type of oppression that we do. In fact, you took and conquered everything from us. And so that is not a grounds to argue anything about reverse racism.
Yeah.
Right? When you just look at the power structure in this country, the capitalism, right? The things that we value instead of Black lives, right? And so you have folks putting signs in their windows and lawns and cars and all kinds of stuff now that say Black Lives Matter, and they're sitting there absorbing the power, absorbing the privilege, right? And so you can't talk to me about reverse racism until we have the conversation about oppression, systemic oppression for Black folks. Like, we have to deal with that. And as long as you're in seats of power and privilege and you give up nothing, don't talk to me about that. Like I don't.
Right. Right.
I'm not even here to listen to that one. Like this, you got me. I'm out. Like
Right.
me
Yeah.
permission.
There are certain things you hear and you just go, there is no conversation here. We're
There is
just gonna
none.
move on.
There is none.
Because how do you how do you even begin?
You
If
don't.
somebody starts with reverse racism, you go,
You don't.
okay.
I go have a nice life. Like you don't. I don't. You're not even. I'm not even.
It's too
So
much
it
work.
just, yeah. I mean, look, this whole thing around the election, right? And after the presidential election, where people were like, "You got to talk to the other side. You got to talk to the other side. You got to bring the other side." And I'm like, here's the difference, right? Like the folks on the other side are trying to kill me.
Kill me.
I don't really have an interest in that conversation. And like, I'm sorry, like I'm out on that conversation. The 70 plus million or whatever, right, that voted for Trump, that, you know, racism wasn't a deal breaker. And to me,
Yes.
that's still a problem. Like,
Yes.
even if it wasn't a deal breaker, like you don't have to be racist, right? But if it wasn't a deal breaker, I still got a problem with you.
I still have a problem with that.
And I'm not building no bridges to nowhere, right? Like I wrote that. Like I'm not building a bridge to nowhere. Right. And so all our lives we're taught about the other side. We gotta, be, reach across the aisle, whatever it is, we gotta, try to talk to folks, bring folks in. And my thing is about where is your intention? If you are well intentioned and you really are trying to be cognizant and trying to do better, right? I will have a conversation with you.
Yes.
We can talk all day, right? But if you want to have a conversation because you're curious, or you
want to just challenge everything that I say.
Yeah, if you like didn't gonna turn around and go right at the Capitol building, like I don't know what to tell you.
I gotta go get a massage. I'm sorry, I don't have time.
My favorite like line. Jay-Z catches a lot of heat, but in the movie, right, Judas the soundtrack,
yeah,
with the late great Nipsey Hussle, right, like they have a song, and Jay's like, look, you let them ride the Capitol building and put their feet on the table, like you let this happen, but you coming after me, like
you coming. Hello.
You coming for me? And they put their feet, they stole a podium. They walked the podium out the door.
While cheesing at a camera.
They were there for hours. if we were there talking about Black Lives Matter, we'd be dead.
Let me tell you. I tell people this all the time. I'm always like, if that didn't convince you that there's a problem, then you are not looking. You are not seeing. I said, because you know what? First of all, had they even caught wind that there was going to be a gathering, they would have been ready, because you saw how they were ready for some of those Black Lives Matter protests, right? They caught wind. I was like, everybody, people who weren't going, everybody knew something was happening. And they're talking about, we just weren't ready. No, you didn't. What happened was, you see Black people as threats. You see them as weapons. Mm-hmm. We know our skin is weaponized. Mm-hmm. You see us as threats. You see white people as benevolent. Mm-hmm. So when you heard that a bunch of white people were going to be doing something on the 6th at the Capitol, you thought, oh, they're going to be fine. They're reasonable. They're not going to do anything.
Yeah.
We would have not even gotten on those stairs. Soon as you step foot on those stairs, there would have been bullets, water, dogs. I mean, you name it, it would have been on us. There would have been no way we would have broken in and done what those people did.
They would have found a way to call the National Guard then.
The National Guard would have been called before we even got there.
They would have found a way. I mean, look, to your point about like whiteness equaling goodness and benevolence and all of those pieces, right? Like the outrage around, oh man, some of them were cops, right? It's like, wow, like they let some people in. The cops were like part of this too. It's like, well, yep. Like Black people been trying to tell y'all this.
I say,
trying to tell you.
I say like, all the time. We can be shouting from the mountaintops. It could be echoing all over the place, and nobody pays attention.
Nobody, right? Like
till something like this happens, and you're like, "Oh my God, why are you so shocked?" It's been bouncing off the mountains for decades.
I mean, we've been trying to tell them, and it's just like, after the Capitol riots, right? I'm like, all right, so like the bar is real low in this country.
Oh my God.
It's been low, it's real low, right?
So
Which is
low.
why I'm like cautiously kind of like, when folks are talking about, doing things, trying to make some progress and all of that. And progress is incremental and all of those things. And I'm like, yes, but sometimes it doesn't have to be,
No,
right?
sometimes it's been incremental for a while and it needs to take a catapult jump. It needs to
Yeah,
just
intentional,
bam.
right? Sometimes it's been intentionally incremental,
Yes,
right?
incremental.
And
That's
so,
like when you're trying to get a promotion. You're like, don't worry about it. Your time will come while you watching people catapult over you
yep,
that
yep,
come in after you.
yep,
And you like, really, like, why am I waiting when they just got here yesterday
yep.
and they're already,
That's what it
same
is.
thing. Some of it
That's
is
what it is.
intentional.
That's why we gotta stop waiting on being promoted and start building our own tables.
Okay?
And
Because
like we gotta get with the game now and figure out how we do that. And sure, like let's start somewhere, right? I just
yes,
have to start somewhere, but it has to be about us, centering us, authentic to us, right? And we've got to lead the way, right? Like
right.
it was lovely to have like all kinds of folks marching with us and all of that. And I'm like, well, can you just let us lead? Because part of that is also knowing when to have a damn seat. Like sometimes I need you to sit your ass down and let me lead. Like
I
sometimes,
am capable. Do not tell me I'm not capable. It's
right,
like
I don't need
exactly.
you.
Yes,
I'm good, right? Like, so I need you to just respect that I got this. And that's
right.
what I need. Like, I don't need you to then absorb the conversation, to then come in and also be marching as well. And then, then don't do anything afterward, right? Like, sometimes let us lead. Like, and we've been trying to tell folks this too,
Mhm.
and it's just sometimes I'm really like, you're in the way. You're
Yeah.
just in the
Excuse me,
way.
please. Excuse me.
Excuse me, I'm you're just in the way. It's fine. We got this.
Right.
Trust that we got this, right? And that
Right.
is part of the threat too, right? Is the feeling threatened that we got it and we're gonna be fine and we're gonna not need them.
Right.
And that's a threat.
Right. So yeah, the help giving people the understanding that if you want to do something, you need to go ask the person who's directing it. And if that person is a black woman, you follow her lead. You don't tell her what she needs. She'll tell
Right.
you what she needs.
That's right.
And if what she needs is for you to not do anything, do nothing.
Correct. Correct.
And you are doing your part.
We got it. We'll take it from here.
We'll take it from here. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. There are, there are a number of conversations that I have, and I have a group that I do. So I have dishing on diversity on Facebook, but then I also have a power elevation group, and in that group is where I really talk to people that are in that group, and we really have these conversations, these very candid, just this is the reality of it
Hmm. Hmm.
conversations. And a lot of good things come from that. And so it becomes, okay, so how can I help? And I say, you got to just go and ask people what they need. You can't just go in and say, I'm going to help you do this, 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 and this. Did
Right.
we tell you we needed this, 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 and this, right?
Right. Right. Right.
I think that the thing is, of course, that white people aren't used to not being centered.
Hmm.
They're not used to that. They're used to whatever they want, they they do or they say, right? And just like they just decided that they were going to storm the Capitol. So, they got together and they said, we're going to go storm this Capitol. Okay. It's a revolution. Yeah, we're going to go do that. Right.
Right.
We we even had a whisper of a revolution in that manner, a
Yep.
whisper.
Yep.
All right. Mind you, the Black Panthers, what they were doing was supporting and providing for their communities.
Absolutely.
And they were on the FBI watch list. Everybody's trying to get in and trying to figure out what is it they're doing? What is it they're doing? Feeding people. My parents were around when the Black Panthers were doing these things, and they were living in a
Right.
community that the Black Panthers were trying to support. And
That's
my
right.
dad said, they were feeding, giving kids breakfast. They were teaching people the things. They were doing good things in the community.
That's right. Look, my uncle was a Black Panther. My shirt is the people's police,
Yes.
right? It's the Black Panthers were doing it, right?
Yes.
And
They
they
were doing what it was needed. And because of that, all of a sudden the government's like,
that's right.
they're getting a little too organized. And so I watched Judas and the
Yeah, that movie is it. That movie is it. I watched it twice. Like it.
oh my goodness. I watched that and I was just so like in my feelings. So in my feelings.
Yeah.
And I was like, so they decided because he could speak too well and he could rally people from diverse backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
He had to go
Mm-hmm.
because God forbid you guys do anything that will uplift you,
Right.
right?
Right.
Oh,
I mean, look, my thoughts around all that is like, we lost Malcolm, we lost Martin, we lost Fred, we lost right, and then we lost Breonna, and then we lost George Floyd, and then we lost Ahmaud, like, and then we're losing everybody because the modern day assassination is the systemic injustice, right? That
injustice,
is like
yes,
persistent and intentionally killing us slowly, but it's still killing us, right? And
yes,
so like that to me, it just hit so deeply, right, when I was watching the movie, because I was like, all of our incredible Black leaders who were taken away from us, right, and we are still losing folks, right, and just the Breonna thing like got me so much, like it was what spurred me to go back in the streets and protest.
right,
Like, look,
yeah,
I've been tear gassed. I've been like told, you about to get arrested, all kind of crap, all kinds of ridiculousness. Was in Baltimore, was told, why are you here? Because they're just going to kill you anyway, by a white man who decided
wow,
to join the protest. So like, you know, so it's real. And it's just like Brianna, like it could have been me. It could have been you. It could have been like, she was like in her bed sleeping. Like it's just like so deep, right? And
it,
and because she was an EM, like saving other people's lives, and the country killed her,
yes,
right?
that's
Like
the
that,
irony, right? That's the irony right there.
the story of Black women's lives, right? That's the story of our lives from the time we are born until we go away from here, and it most likely ain't on our own terms,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Right? Like that is the thing, and it just got me so much, and I'm like, this just could have been it. And folks were saying all kinds of craziness about her boyfriend and all kinds of, right, and I'm like, no, 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 this is specifically about what happened to her. Right?
yes. People always try to go, well, this happened and this happened. She was sleeping.
Yep.
This
Yep.
happened and this. She was
Yep.
asleep.
Yep. And then they decided that the building was worth more than her life.
Okay.
The building, right? This is a story of Black women's lives till the end.
Yeah.
That's the
And
story.
there's some things that you just cannot argue. You just cannot argue them if people just choose not to see it, right? And that is one of them.
Yeah.
I will not argue with you from here to tomorrow about why it is wrong that she died in her bed while asleep and the person who did it got nothing
Yep.
for it. Did
Yep.
got, and then you wonder, and then you want to know why we're mad.
Yeah.
Why are you so emotional about this? I mean, come on, let's just talk. No,
Yeah.
we're not talking about this, right? It's the same as you want to always vilify the victim when they die, right? Well, he was such and such. Yeah, but police aren't supposed to kill people. But he was, no,
Right.
police are not supposed to kill people.
Right. Right.
Okay?
Right.
They are making themselves the judge, the jury, and the executioner. That is not their place.
Yep.
Yes, okay, I agree with you. But no buts. Leave
Yep.
the butt at the
Yep.
door.
It's right. It's right. It's right.
It's not supposed to happen.
It's just not, right? It's just not. There's nothing around that
You
conversation.
can't don't justify with me. Don't because now you want to go and pull out every last thing that they might have done. Oh, you know what? He got a parking ticket in
Mm-hmm.
1995.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh
I
yeah.
heard that he was a little irate at that point in time when he was talking to that police officer. So maybe,
Yeah.
maybe what?
Yeah. Yeah.
What did you do in 1995 that you probably haven't told anybody?
Right.
Were you that person who raped that girl behind the door, behind the at the dumpsters where she was all drunk?
Yep.
And they decided that your life was worth more. And
Yep.
so you got off pretty scot free. Are
Yep.
you that person?
Yep. Look, the insurrectionists' lives are worth more than Black lives.
Yes.
They're still walking around. How many stories have we seen about these crazies
Oh, she
still
went
in
to
the
Mexico.
news? still, they're still in the news, right? And I'm like, okay, no, we are now like glorifying the insurrectionists.
Yes.
Like that is a problem, right? And we're not thinking about what that means as a country, right? And it's what we do in America. Like we love this, we love to glorify all kinds of stuff, but we refuse to center Black liberation. And
Yes.
right,
Like
it's
it's
like,
like how dare you want to be how dare you want to be free? How dare you not want to get killed? How dare you
mm-hmm,
feel this way?
mm-hmm, or even
You
speak
should
up.
be happy.
Yeah,
You should be happy that fill in the blank.
yeah. Oh yeah, I got many of them. I got the Harriet Tubman $20 bill coming.
You should be
Y'all getting
happy.
Tubmans?
Oh, are you excited about that?
Y'all getting Tubmans? And I was like, well,
Look.
I mean, it is still part of a capitalistic system. Like,
Right.
I'm glad she on the 20, but like that don't save me or you or right.
That's
Like, oh,
exactly.
that is, bravo. Like, and now make policy change.
Now
you know,
please, can we change some of these policies that
right?
are causing harm?
Bravo. Give me some Tubman so I can pay off my student loan debt.
And
Bravo.
then please hire me from the school that I could afford instead of judging me for not having gone to the school that I could not afford
Listen, I
because of the history of the school. I mean, there's so much.
listen. The amount of questions too I've gotten about Howard, right? Like, I'm proud Howard alum. My dad was a Howard alum, right? My father too. Like, I talk in one of the salon pieces about my dad. Like, I lost my dad when I was 23.
Mm,
Like I'm a dad's girl, right? Like, I loved him.
yeah.
And you couldn't tell me nothing, right? Like, it was like, this is, we had a lot of the same kind of like ambition and personality and some of that, right? And work
Mm-hmm.
ethic and all those pieces. And he just like, he would just push me to be like, you're better than that. Like, you could go and do this too, and you can move
Yeah.
mountains, and you can do, and he just refused to let go of those kinds of conversations. And so it was lovely for me to be able to like memorialize him again by
Mm-hmm.
saying Baltimore City put up a building named after him. That was incredible, right?
Oh,
The
nice.
thing
Yeah.
he wanted and would have been for the public works, workers to get fair pay, to get benefits and all of that. And, the city council came through and they, right, like gave them, some of their due. But like, that's the stuff that would have mattered because that was who he was.
Right.
Right. And like, he would have been like, this building is lovely, y'all. But like,
But
but like, what about the workers and what we,
yes. Yes.
and so that's sort of like, I think my spirit, right, is like taking up though, like that torch from him.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom, right, like my mom was pushing me every day and being able to like continue to do that,
Mm-hmm.
and to have some hard conversations, right? Like, I'm married to a fabulous Black man, but toxic masculinity exists. Right, and sometimes he's part of that. And
Right.
sometimes it's your brother and it's your cousin and it's your, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we're gonna talk about toxic masculinity too, because
Yeah.
folks all the time are like, come, if I just post like a photo of a Black woman or something like that, folks are in my comments like, why you gotta put the Black man down? Why you gotta put the Black? And I'm like, well, I never put the Black man down. I just centered the Black woman. So you got some kind of insecure, you got some issues, some
You should go take care of that. Go take
So you
care.
need to go deal with that. And like, let's not, and just again, the refusal to acknowledge that we have this very specific oppression, right? That like, even with Black men and even with men of color, right? And women of color, that our oppression is very different. And the refusal to acknowledge that and even to put it down or to discredit it, right?
Yes.
Right. And I was like, so this person, so that I came back and was like, okay, so even Malcolm said the
Right.
most disrespected person is the Black woman. So like, what's your point, sir? Like, what are we arguing? Right? Like, and we just, the minute we start to center ourselves, even without putting others down,
Mm-hmm.
folks got a problem.
Yes.
So again, because we exist, right?
Right.
Folks got a problem.
Right. So, it's important. What you say is important. Unapologetically, just show up. Unapologetically. Because we don't have anything to apologize for.
Mm-hmm.
We have, just as you have the right to be who you are, and I honor that, you need to honor the fact that I'm going to show up as who I am,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
just take that and let's go with that.
Yeah.
Right? Don't expect me to be here to coddle and to make you comfortable
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things, and just know that this is me.
Right.
Take
And
it.
then, and I can have no regrets at the end of the day because I know I showed up,
Yes.
as
Yes.
myself, was myself, gonna continue to be myself, right? And if that's not enough in a space, then
Right.
you know, I am now blessed enough to be able to walk right out of that space. And what I want is for other Black women to be able to give themselves permission to walk out of those spaces too, right? And find a new space or create a new space. And
Yes.
that's the game. Like that's the move is right. Like we're gonna start playing chess.
Yeah.
We're playing chess.
Yeah.
Like this is where we're at. So like while y'all
Yes.
thanking us for saving the country, we're over here playing chess, trying to figure out the next move, right?
Right?
And that's what I want so badly for all Black women to be able to realize that, to stand in who they are, to be able to be comfortable in who they are, to push the boundaries, right? To like push each other, right? To just like be happy, right? Because sometimes folks mad because we happy, right? Like I show up in a meeting and I'm like laughing and joking and having some fun and just heard something that was really funny and I'm laughing and and it's like, why are you mad? Like I look, I don't have, look, we're oppressed. I don't have to like,
Look, I
dance
say so.
about it every day. Like,
Who did somebody say? Oh, they I don't remember who said it, but they said they want our rhythm, but they don't want our blues. But if you don't have our blues, you can't understand our rhythm.
mm,
I say, and I look around, and my husband is white, and I look around at white people's joy and Black people's joy, and our joy is immense. It's something that others cannot understand.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
I understand that you can't understand it
mm-hmm,
because you don't have the pressures that to release that we have to release.
mm-hmm,
You can go to a white party and everybody's drinking, and that's how they get their joy. You can go
mm-hmm.
to a Black party and nobody could be drinking, but they having such a good time. You think everybody's drinking and high.
Right.
It's
Right.
just how it works, right?
Right. I
I
mean,
mean,
look,
and I've seen this. Like
and we're doing it on Zoom now. We like Google Meets, where you at? Like, it's still, we gotta find, right, like our joy and live in our joy. Like that's who we are too. And
yes.
because y'all enslaved us, doesn't mean that now, we can't find our joy and be able to be free in that joy and
Yep.
spread that joy, and it just
Yeah.
makes folks angry. It just makes them
Yes.
angry.
That's why I don't really post on the weekends necessarily, but if I'm posting, I'm like from Friday to Sunday is Black Joy time. So you're
Yeah.
not going to see me talking about, all the oppression. You're not going to see me posting anything about what's going on. You're going to see me posting things that make me laugh, that'll make you laugh, that'll make you happy, maybe even cry tears of joy.
Yeah.
But that's where we're gonna stay in the joy area, because And that's another reason why I do Fridays the way that I do them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Fridays and Mondays, because you and I both know that doing this, talking about this, teaching about this, consulting about this, living in this, doing this work will it will take a lot,
It
but
takes a
you
lot.
have to refill.
Yes. Yes. That's the only way, right? To be our best selves, to move the needle, to be able to go out there and fight every day. We have to be our best selves. So I'm a huge believer in protecting my time as much as I can. I
Yes.
have a lot going on. I have a lot on my plate, right? Like, my like awesome assistant is like, you are managing 4 calendars, girl. Get your life together, right? And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, even bringing her on, like, she's incredible, right? And like, even bringing her on was a thing for me because I was like, I'm used to doing my own. Like, I'm gonna just figure it out, and like, just having her give me the permission to be like, actually, I'm gonna give this on over to you
Yes.
because I need to be able to still have some time for me, to have some, work time, to be able to have some things blocked off, and that takes courage, and it takes us pushing
It
each
does.
other, right? And like, and it's okay to claim your space, to claim your joy, right? To be free in all of that joy as much
Mhm.
as we want. And it's all right. And we got to give ourselves permission because this life is so hard. It's so hard, right? It's so hard. It's so hard. If we thought about a million other things, we could be depressed about it or cry about it
Yep.
or whatever. And, we got to find that joy in those places. And, it's part of the thing with the pandemic that's missing now, right? Like, when you lose folks, like, we celebrate lives, right? Like the way we go down, we
I
celebrate
know.
we celebrate, and you're missing those aspects now,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
sort of we're losing ourselves in some of that, and so it is okay to just reclaim some space, right?
Yes.
And some joy and the laugh, right? Or to cry if you need to, like,
Whatever it is, it needs to come out. Let it come out, and then just so you can go, okay, I'm good now. Let's go.
yeah, I'm good. Let's go fight this fight. Like, let's go. We might not be riding the Capitol. Granted, we would have every right to, think about it at least, right?
Okay.
After all we've been through, but but let me fight in my own way, right? Like, it is about what makes you happy in justice, right? And
Yes.
happiness is part of justice too. And we
Yes.
gotta
Oh
lean in.
my gosh. I'm so happy to hear you say that because I say that all the time. I'm like, we should be happy that we're fighting for this justice here. This is a good thing. This is a happy thing. This is, I mean, as hard as it may be, this is a happy thing that we're doing. We should have some energy, some good energy behind it because it's not about going in with a long face. It's about coming in and knowing that you are doing what needs to be done and this is important work.
That's
So be happy.
that's right. That's right. Go dance if you need to.
Do
Get your
it.
what's on. Whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? It's like we have to, right? And
Yes.
it's like sometimes I just call my niece and I'm like, okay, girl, what's the latest dance you learning right now? Right? And she'll be like, oh, it's this dance here, and
Yeah, yeah.
and it's just little things like that just get you up in the morning. You gotta have a reason,
Yes.
to keep going and to get up, and it's so important that we just protect those joyous spaces, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
sometimes, like, white folks ain't gonna get the joke, and that's fine. Let us have it.
Right?
Another, like, sit your ass down. Right? Let us have it. It's fine. You don't
You
have to
don't
get,
have to get it.
and I'm
Like
not
you
gonna spend time explaining it to you.
right. And you don't have to use it. Like there's certain words you don't have to use. You don't get to use.
Listen.
And be okay with that.
Right. It's okay. It's
It's okay. It's gonna be all
okay.
right. Gonna be all right. Oh my goodness. Is there anything else that you would like to bring forth that we have not touched upon?
We can talk about everything. I mean, this is my whole space. Like, I feel like this is like the group text chat
Yes.
we got every day. I mean, I think my main thing is just understand what freedom means to you and give yourself permission to go do that thing
Right.
and to be in that thing and to live authentically, right? And to laugh authentically and to really just make sort of whatever is the thing that makes you get up every day, right? To lean into that, live
Lean into
into that,
Yep.
and give yourself permission to leave the party when it ain't feeling right, you know?
Yes.
And that's the main thing. And anytime we do that, we are going to make space for more folks to come and feel that they can do the same, right, in whatever
Yes.
way that is. And I think we just got to get to a place where we are beginning to, like, not necessarily think about all the firsts, like they're lovely, but now we have to normalize many, right? We have to normalize many firsts. And
Yes.
and that's where the journey is. Like, that's where I think we got to movement builds. We got to get to that place, and we just gotta, show up and show out.
Show up and show out. Yes.
Yeah, show up and show out, right? Like, this is what we gotta do.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about what you do, what your unapologetic communications does, please.
Sure. So, I am a communicator in my profession and have done so. I was in the Obama administration. One of my bosses is incredible, John King, who was his education secretary. What I'm trying to do now is apply all those skills that I have learned over 15 years in the game, to make space for Black women and women of color who want to lean into their authentic voices and to help them channel that. And so whether it is talking points, speeches, whether you're in healthcare or, sports or entertainment or whatever that is, right? Just helping us get to a place where we can really fully, lean into who we are and do it publicly, right? And so I am sort of here to be like the hype woman, right? To help you get to
Yeah.
that place, right? With whatever it is that you're doing, to be able to do that and to be successful in it. And so applying all the tools that I've learned, to something I'm now passionate about and
Yes.
being able to create that larger movement. So I'm just honored that I, have an opportunity to do this. And, hopefully this is the thing I'll be able to get up and do every day at some point. And so, I'm working toward it. And I just want to give us all permission to, like, be who we are every day unapologetically. And that's the mission.
Love it. Love it. How can people find you? I will put all your information if you send it to me in the notes, but please, how
Yeah.
can we find you?
Yes. So the site is unapologeticcoms.com. It was kind of cute. So I was like,
It is.
and I'm on Twitter. It's at Takirra WD. You can find the company at unapologetic.com, 1M.
Okay, fantastic. Oh my goodness, I can't even begin to tell you how much fun I've had with you today.
This made my whole day.
I know. I feel so energized. I'm like, okay, what's next? I don't even care. I'm like,
This is how you build the movement.
oh my goodness, thank you so much. But you know what? The last question that I love to ask all my guests is, what is your favorite dish? Because we're dishing, but what is your favorite dish?
I have so many. It's ridiculous. Okay, so at the moment,
Okay, that works.
talk about the moment. So at the moment, my husband makes the best chili, and he just made this, like, rendition with chicken, and it's like a little, like, salsa and like a little stew and it's like a little bit of everything, right? It's like a
Yes.
kind of gumbo, and it's like symbolic, right? Because I'm like, we're all these things, and so he puts love into it and put a lot of love and a lot of care into it, and it just is this great dish that I love all the time, anytime he does it, and it's just my favorite thing right now.
Oh, I love it. It sounds delicious.
It is great. And if I had the recipe, it's all in his head, so I'm like,
I know. I'm sure.
he makes some stuff up, throw some, it's good.
Yes. Oh my goodness. That sounds amazing. Well, wonderful. Thank you again so much for being here.
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate you being here.
Of course, anytime.
Hey, did you enjoy that episode? If so, please be sure to subscribe, download, rate, review, and share. It would also mean the world to me if you became a patron over at Patreon. The information is in the show notes. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.